Hazer listeners, Love is Blind, Season 5, Pods. Let's watch.
Mind date number 10.
Yeah.
He walks in, and I recognize his voice. Uche and I have dated in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I forgot about how Milton would feel about both things, right? How he would feel. Well, so what position is Milton in? Well, the same. So, right, the same. He's in the same position. Milton I didn't show it necessarily, but Milton has expressed that he definitely wants to be with Lydia, and now he's learning that he has been lied to by omission by both Lydia and Uche. So let's see how this goes.
Love our connection, and I have been truly genuine with myself with you, and there's a reason why Uche and I didn't work out. I really want to know your thoughts.
Don't really have any thoughts.
Okay, so we are seeing that pattern that I was worried about, that he withdraws and shuts down and avoids when he's hurting. He's clearly hurting. He has the visual cues. She doesn't see that, but we do. And we could imagine that he'd be hurt. I mean, just think about how Aaliyah reacted. Milton would have the exact same feelings. We haven't spent much time with Milton, so it's hard for us to feel for him, but we understand intellectually he's in the exact same position. So he is having feelings of some sort, and he says, I don't have any thoughts. Now, maybe he'll come around. Maybe he is done, and he just doesn't want to share. But I suspect that's not true. I suspect he hasn't made that choice yet. And this is an example of how these two will interact when push comes to shove. It's one thing when they're the pods, they don't have a history together, and there's nothing really to fight about. Well, I mean, some of them find a way, but there's not that daily grind of aggravating things that happen in a relationship. So that makes it sound pretty despairing. You know what I'm saying? So for Milton, it's a lot easier for him to maybe overcome whatever barriers are there, preventing him from being a human being and being expressive and being vulnerable. He could be that way, and he said he was turning a new leaf coming into the pods. But now that there's an actual situation that's providing a test, he is retreating. So what that says is they are very likely to experience, if they do get married, they're very likely to experience this dynamic moving forward. And without a lot of assistance from a competent therapist, a couple of therapists, it's just going to get worse and worse. Now, maybe they'll manage, but the key is how does she react here? Because if she says, if she's flexible and she's just like, okay, I'm laying a lot on you, I'll give you some time to think, we'll just sit here in silence, but I'm here for you, or what do you want me to do? There's a accommodating way. But for some people that present like Lydia, they will be hurt by that rejection of shutting down and will either lean in or say, I don't need this shit, so let's see what happens.
Milton. Oh, shit, Milton. I was really nervous to tell you about this because I care about you. I do. And I believe you're perfect for me. Perfectly imperfect for me. And I'm falling for you so hard.
It's hard to feel that, right? But I've been there before. I remember with Kwame, I just thought, really? It doesn't look that way to me. So what do I know? But I'm just speaking off the cuff. There are other relationships like Taylor and JP where, I don't know, you just feel it. You're like, oh yeah, it makes sense that they're saying that. We're not there all the time with these two, but it just feels like it's not real. But anyway, so he literally said he's indifferent. I mean, that's and he doesn't look indifferent, right? So I think he has resorted to his normal avoidance, shutting down.
Milton.
Yeah, I'm just listening.
I'm falling in love with you. I want to marry you.
Can we come back in 5 minutes?
Are you gonna come back? Do you promise?
Yeah, I just need like 5 minutes.
Okay, For those of you who watch this channel for a while, you'll hear me occasionally talk about the preoccupied avoidant technique of taking breaks that avoidant people will want to do and how to navigate that. And they just did it perfectly. What usually happens pathologically is the avoidant person will just bolt, and the preoccupied person will feel very hurt and or pursue or yell or something. And this way, but the way that I recommend people do it is that absolutely, if the avoidant person needs to step out for a bit and take a break, of course they should be allowed to. And when you do that, you want to reassure the other person that you will re-engage after a certain period of time. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 24 hours, depending on the situation. But you want to accommodate the preoccupied person because, and I'm not saying they're avoidant preoccupied, but they're emulating that. And you want to reassure the preoccupied person so they don't freak out and get hurt and anxious, because if they're hurt and anxious, one, it'll degrade their affection for you, but two, it'll be harmful to them, and three, it will cause them to pursue, which is more problem than you need to avoid even more, right? So you just say, I need X amount of time, and then for the preoccupied person, it still will not feel good that they're separating, but you have to reassure yourself, and if you need reassurance, ask for it. So she did that spontaneously. Are you sure you're going to come back? And expressing that pain and that vulnerability. I'll give you this, but please come back in 5 minutes because I'm really desperate. This will hurt. So yeah, it was perfectly done. I don't think I've ever seen that enacted on one of these shows that well. I can't imagine having ever watched that because there's so many. And I'll say that a lot of violence actually can occur when these kinds of things become pathological. He will want to leave, the avoidant person will want to go, the preoccupied person will chase, and then maybe the preoccupied person even blocks your way out of the room, and you get frustrated and you move the preoccupied person and you leave. There was even a story recalled by Johnny Depp and Amber Heard that was along those lines. I don't know, of course, because it was just a recalled account of what had happened, but that happens a lot. And if you've ever had a dynamic like that, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe not the violence, but the pain and how, because what ends up happening is it just injures everybody, because the avoidant person is injured because the preoccupied person is often critical and demanding and controlling or something along those lines, or doesn't allow the person to have space, or insults like, oh, you're not a man, you're not going to talk with me, or this is why I don't want to be in a relationship. You're constantly walking away from me. Actually, Big Ed and Liz do this kind of dynamic at times. And for the preoccupied person, they're very hurt as well, because whenever you're talking about something, not only do they not provide anything, all they say is nothing. But when they are pressed to say something, they just say they're indifferent. I mean, how am I supposed to feel about that? And then they just walk away, and then they come back a day later as if nothing happened, and we're supposed to act like nothing happened. It's very destructive. Whereas, if you do it like this, I wouldn't be surprised if after this whole thing comes out that Lydia and Uche tell on social media, look, y'all, they sat us down and said, look, we are going to kick you off of the show unless you agree that you tell nobody about this. I'm guessing, I'm sure that was discussed among the producers of the show, right? Because it would ruin it, because both people could tell everyone else about Uche could tell everyone about Lydia, and Lydia could tell everyone about Uche, and that just completely ruins the whole thing. And so I could imagine the producers sit down the two and say, look, we are going, not together, but separately, and say, we are going to remove you from the show. It's no fault of your own, but you're going to be removed from the show unless you agree that you do not tell a single soul, anyone, whether it be a guy or a woman, about that you know each other. That's the only way this is going to work. And what the producers are thinking is, well, this will all just blow over. This might have even happened in previous seasons. But what the producers didn't count on was that Aaliyah and Uche would hit it off, and Aaliyah and Lydia would become two of the best friends we've ever seen on the show. Like they didn't think, because it wouldn't. Statistically, it's not likely to happen that way. Or they had never run into this situation before, the producers, and they're just like, we'll see, it'll be fine, right? Because most people don't even move on to this phase. Like, you even notice, or at least for me, in the lounge, there's very few people, because I think they're later in the week, and so many people have not matched up with anyone because they dated all 15 people multiple times, and they're just like, yeah, there's really nothing going on. And I have the feeling they just send a bunch of people home because they're just cluttering the situation. So anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. And if they did, then at some point they thought, well, this is going to come out once they're at the honeymoon, right? So the producers are thinking, we should probably just have them say it now, because that's the altruistic thing to do, to give Aaliyah and Milton a chance to know the situation before they get engaged. So now we have to encourage them to say something. So, okay, they do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was in there. But, who knows? Because I'm just trying to figure, why wouldn't Uche say something? Why wouldn't Uche tell Aaliyah? Because he seems like the sort of person that would. Plus, he's not really, there's not really a downside to telling Aaliyah earlier on. Like, when they started to get serious, he would say, so I just want to tell you, by the way, that I did date someone not too long ago that's here, and we broke up, but it feels weird not to tell you that, and her name's Lydia. I think Uche would seem like the sort of person who would. And quite honestly, so is she. She is seemingly a very honest person, honest to a fault. She must have been bursting at this. Imagine Lydia she must have been bursting at the seams wanting to tell Aaliyah that she used to date Uche. Once she had that ability, because the secret was revealed, Lydia just, flooded, just this, hurricane of information was coming out of her mouth. So yeah, there had to be something there, unless, who knows, maybe there's something nefarious going on within each person. That's the other thing. It's like, both of them didn't say anything. So that it's weird, right? It smells like something. And anyway, but yeah. So if that's all true, then that's a rough position to be in, right? That the producers would basically force people to lie. So I'm just making this up, who knows? But we use this as a jumping off point. And I've treated clients in this situation where, for example, if you have like highly religious parents who just have highly religious parents, and you date someone, and after a couple of years you move in with that person, well, your highly religious parents might very much disapprove of what's happening for you, but they want to have a relationship with you, but they ask you, don't tell any of the extended family, don't tell aunts and uncles or grandma or anything, because it's disgraceful what you're doing. We'll tolerate it that you're living in sin with your partner, but you can't tell anyone else. And if you tell everyone else, you're going to cause a lot of pain and upset. Everyone is going to freak out, and you might kill your grandma with this. So you are being asked by another party to lie to a different party. And that is a very difficult situation to be in, right? And how do you navigate that? And what do you do when the secret eventually comes out? And what's the moral thing to do? It's tough. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
You told him that because you care about him.
I do.
And if he cares about you, he's going to be okay. We all have a past. And the people that love you want to know more, and they take your past as a map on how to love you. They don't use it as something to hold against you.
Wow, that is insightful. That is wise. Did she make that up? Did she get that from somewhere? If she made that up, that's great. Yeah, I like that. If someone really loves you, then they will use your past as a map for how to love you, not as something to use against you. Yeah, that's profound. Stacy, nice.
I just feel like maybe if I would have known sooner,
I couldn't say a word, because if I had said something, the whole experiment go down the drain. I wanted to tell you,
Okay, I don't know, but given my conspiracy theory that is in the direction, and she might also have been told you can't tell people that we told you not to tell. You have to phrase it as the whole experiment would be ruined. I guess it's also possible that they both also independently, or maybe even they talked before, Uche and Lydia before they left the pods, that we both agree we're not going to tell anybody because we don't want to ruin the experiment for other people. That's also possible.
And if you have known sooner, will you stop talking to me?
I mean, there's an answer I want to give you, and there's a truthful answer.
Say me the truthful answer.
So that sounds like he's saying, I want to tell you that it wouldn't have changed things, but in reality it would. Why? I mean, Milton can make his own choices, but what difference does it make that you are, unless Milton and Uche are super best friends, but we haven't seen evidence of that. But even then, well, it was rather recent. Also, I don't know if I showed this, but for Lydia, the way she describes her relationship with Uche, it sounded way longer than 3 months. She said they met in 2020, and it was a really hard time for her. And Uche was there for her and very kind, which is a tick in the column that Uche is a good catch for Aaliyah. And then she says 3 months ago, we ended it. So does that mean we were friends and then we started dating for 3 months toward the end? Or were they dating for a long time, sort of off and on? I don't know. It seems like Uche wouldn't have concealed that, but who knows? He did lie about the Lydia thing, so maybe he lied about that too. Because 2020, it's 2023 right now, in case you don't know. And I'm pretty sure they're either referring to January of 2023 or January of 2022. I suspect, because right now it's April of whatever month they're in. And I would suspect it must be this year. But even if it was 2022, so at least their relationship of sorts. So if they according to Uche dated from September to January or October to January of 2021, and they met in 2020. So either they were friends before they started dating, or Uche is lying.
Day 1, day 2, yeah, probably.
Why?
Just because, I don't know, it seems kind of messy.
We all have our past, and it could happen to anybody.
Yeah, messy how? Is it that because you're really good friends with Uche and that you plan on seeing Uche after the pods? Because, yeah, that would be, I guess, messy. But if not, then, because I don't think that always happens, right? Then what's the diff, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the sort of person that cares about that sort of thing, but maybe I feel like a lot of people do.
It's just different when you know the person. I just wasn't expecting it.
I was not expecting it. Can you, for 5 seconds, put yourself on my shoes of what I've had to endure?
Now, in absence of at least the theory that production or they were altruistically lying to people because they didn't want to ruin the experiment for other people, if we believe that, then that sentence, of I want you to put yourself in my shoes and know what I had to endure, especially her, because her truthfulness is there's a lot of pressure behind that dam that's trying to break through that dam, right? And then we would say, okay, I guess I understand that question. But if it's not reasonable that they were lying about it, then what's the endurance that you had to go through? The fact that you were harming others, that I'm supposed to have sympathy for that?
I kind of thought, going into this experience, being 24, I thought I was, in a really, really good spot. And I thought, I knew, so much about myself. I kind of realized that there's, a lot emotionally that I haven't, healed from.
Okay, so I don't want to be condescending, but he's saying I'm 24, and I'm thinking he's going to say, I'm super young, and I haven't figured, but I think what he was saying was, I'm 24, I'm so old, I thought I had healed from everything. I probably felt the same way when I was 24, but that is a nonsensical statement. One, healing happens throughout your life, but I don't know many 24-year-olds in my life anyway who have everything figured out. He's not exactly saying that, but at the very least, I will point out that he has, done a 180, and he is no longer avoiding. He is expressing and being very vulnerable, which we know to be very against his normal tendencies. So he is really stretching himself right now. I mean, at the very least, even if they don't work out, he is growing in that way, which is really great. It is interesting also that he thought going into the pods that everything had been worked out for him, and that is a very avoidant thing. They avoid to the point where their conscious mind isn't even aware of what's going on with them, and they avoid situations that will provoke them. They'll avoid vulnerability, they'll avoid closeness, they might even avoid relationships. So it's all pointing in that direction of something happening to him 0 to 5 years old that resulted in him turning away from emotion and relationships and dependency, even though that's all inside of him, but he's trying to avoid that. And it bodes well for the two of them because they are managing this situation. He did have to take a break, and he did it brilliantly, and she reacted very well as well. He comes back, he's returning, he's being vulnerable, she's listening, she's not bulldozing. So this bodes really well for their relationship.
Unfortunately, Aaliyah has decided to not continue with the experiment.
Whoa! That is surprising, but not a bad move, because you can always date later, right? But also, the way they ended the conversation, things were good, and it seemed logical. So, that's a mystery. And ouch for him. And, well, that sucks. Particularly given the journey they've been on, I was pulling for them. I mean, he's fine, seems like a nice fella, but I was really pulling for Aaliyah. So I guess whatever Aaliyah wants to do, then I'm pulling for whatever she wants to do.
Just talked, I was like, hey,
And production could have told him before he gets his hopes up and goes into the pods, but I suppose for drama's sake, that's what they did.
She's gone.
I have no idea.
I don't know if it's just this season or it's always been happening, but I'm noticing a lot of spoilers that are happening in the previews. And I seem to remember liking Love is Blind for not doing that, because in 90 Day Fiancé and other reality shows, they do that all the time. I always skip it, but I'm thinking, why do you want to ruin the show for everybody? So I always thought Love is Blind was above that sort of stuff, but apparently they're not. So I keep having to skip over things. They also have like pre things in this episode. It's like, yeah, I'm watching it. You don't need to tease an episode I'm watching. Be like in the middle of a Superman movie, there's a trailer for Superman. Like, what are you doing? Or a trailer for Superman at the beginning of Superman. It's like, yeah, I'm here, buddy. Like, I'm watching it. You don't need to ruin it for me. So there's that. But so I don't watch it, but I don't watch these scenes. So this is interesting. So if Uche and Aaliyah are out, then I think we only have 3 couples. What a disaster for the experiment. You got Lydia and Milton, which, I don't know, the more I see them together, the more I think it could work. But it certainly looks like they're on a shaky foundation. I don't know how similar they are. They also talked about how hard it would be for their lives to be together because of his work and him traveling and stuff. And then you have Izzy and Stacy, and I could see them actually working out. The more I see of them, I think, okay, actually, this might be a match made in heaven. And also, there's a lot of health in the expressions. Johnny and Chris didn't work out because Chris turned down Johnny, which I think was a good choice. Not that Johnny's a bad person, but it's such a shaky foundation to get engaged upon. You got JP and Taylor that managed, and they seem perfectly fine. Although there is a question about how they actually are together in person, because when they met, it was pretty awkward. But I think it was just the situation. And then now we have Uche and Aaliyah who are out. So yeah, we got 3 couples. That is the first time that's happened. So I guess I was wondering, because normally in my memory, other seasons of Love is Blind, they get to the honeymoon really fast. It's just like this rocket to the honeymoon. I would always marvel, like, whoa, we're already at the honeymoon. Okay, wow. But they don't have many people to film at the honeymoon and the other things. There's literally half the amount of drama and story that they normally have to shoot. So they have to show us more pods info because that's all they got. And that's where a lot of the drama happens, right? And especially when we think about, okay, Lydia and Milton, I could see that being dramatic, but I also consider them, I can't see them being really evil to each other. So that probably, I'm guessing that's not going to work out, but if I was to put my money down right now, and the road to that, I think, wouldn't be too awful and very dramatic. Izzy and Stacy's still kind of a wild card to me, but she's looking more and more like she's in it to win it, and found a good person for her. JP and Taylor, that's another question mark, but they haven't shown much drama at all. There's been no drama up at this point, so I'm guessing there's not going to be much. So it just makes you wonder, like, what are they going to film? Is it just going to be all the normal nice things, like meeting the parents, and then there you have the wedding scene? So there's certainly no villain. The other thing I was looking forward to was Aaliyah and Lydia and Uche actually meeting in person and interacting, right? I suppose throw Milton in there, but I was wondering how that would go. But now we're not going to see any of that, so there's not a lot to be interested in. It usually delivers, right? There's usually something that happens that's worth watching, and I'll only post those scenes that are commentable, you know what I mean? So I'll spare you that, I guess. All right. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. You probably already know what happened, because by the time this episode comes out, it's probably well into the other episodes being released, but I'm not. For me, the show was just released 2 days ago, just released yesterday. It's Saturday today. It was released yesterday. So I don't have any idea what's going on. I don't have any idea what people are saying about it, but you know what I'm saying about it because you watched it. And everyone, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.